12 go through VTAC. Girls that are in year 12 at the moment be familiar with that, and probably year 11s as well. If you're playing in the Aon 7s or part of the Aon 7 squad, you'd be eligible for what's called an elite athlete entry scheme. Now, all that does for you at the moment is guarantee an ATAR before you would sit your final exams. Those ATARs aren't particularly advantageous at the moment. They're 70 for agriculture. If I'll mention them, they may not mean anything to anybody. 85 for design, science and arts, 93 for commerce, and 94 for biomedicine. So that's something that can guarantee you a level if you're in year 12 at the moment and you're thinking of coming to Melbourne. Probably things that aren't as well known are, if I could tell a little story, we've got a couple of guys, we've got a lot of AFL athletes here, but we've got a couple of guys from the Western Bulldogs who had been out of school for a couple of years. Their high school marks weren't probably at the level to get them into Melbourne. And what they've been doing for the last 2 years is doing what's called the community access program. So you do single subjects, you can pick any subject you like. And those subjects you would do one by one. You can do them separately, or what these two are thinking about is studying eventually a Bachelor of Commerce. At the end of this year, they will have done 4 of these single subjects, which will count towards their Bachelor of Commerce and give them guaranteed entry into the Bachelor of Commerce. So that might be something you'd think about if you were working at the moment. Maybe there's a subject that you can do there that might tie in with your work, and it might sit as a standalone subject, or it might be that I want to do a subject or two with a view to maybe next year or the year after thinking maybe I want to do a full degree. If you decide to only do a subject, that still comes with a standalone qualification. You get the university certification. So that might be in the hundreds and hundreds of subjects the university offers. That's a way of saying, okay, there's no prerequisite. I can do a subject as long as I'm enjoying it, ticking it along. If I decide to study further, I can count that towards my studies. And you could do that out of year 12 if I didn't have the right ATAR, if I've been out of school for a number of years, any of those options. And the last one is Access Melbourne. And I know we've got some girls on the call or some players on the call that are rural, remote, maybe Tasmania. Jason, is that right? We've got some girls. Yep. Okay. So Access Melbourne is if you happen to come from what Melbourne defines as an underrepresented school. So there's literally a listing on the website. If my school doesn't or hasn't been able to have a lot of students go to the University of Melbourne, the university has a scheme where they say, okay, we want to try and, regardless of ATAR, try and allow students at those schools that haven't had a great connection to study at the university. If you come from a disadvantaged financial background, if you're considered rural or isolated, so that would mean anywhere outside in Victoria, Bendigo, Ballarat, if you live anywhere in Tasmania, any rural region outside there. It also extends to things if you have specific medical conditions, if you come from a non-English speaking background, or if you're recognised as an Indigenous Australian. All of these things, there's a really broad coverage with Access Melbourne. Now, what that does is basically takes a huge chunk off your ATAR. So it would mean that for science, arts, design, you're down at 78. If you wanted to study commerce, 86, or biomedicine, 90. I'm doing a lot of talking, Jason. I don't know if anybody has any questions. Maybe they can put their hand up, or
I just had a question for you, Brendan, just
sure,
with the community access program. In terms of commitment for, the players, if they were to take up something like that, how many sort of hours a week, or what's that sort of commitment looking like?
So it literally, you would be doing it with students that were doing a subject. So if you were doing, and maybe Annie or somebody can probably better explain. Annie, you're on the call there somewhere, Annie?
Hi, yes.
If I'm doing a single subject in arts, Annie, what am I looking at?
Maybe 4 hours of full contact hours, and however much else you do, which would probably be like 2 or 3 of reading and work.
Yeah, it's normally a 1-to-1 ratio with the straight contact hours. If I chose a science subject, I'm going to have I might have another hour or 2 on top of that, because there might be a laboratory, just depending on what I'm interested in. It might be something, as I say, that ties in with my work. Maybe it's something somebody whose employer might think about, this is a good qualification for one of my employees to have, and maybe that's a way to And these would be discussions. We can certainly put you in touch with the right people if that's of interest to you. So maybe thanks, Annie. Sorry, I didn't want to put you on the spot there. Okay. So that's basically, there's other ways than I need to get this super high ATAR, which Melbourne does have a pretty high level of initial ATAR entry. Once you get here at Melbourne University Sport, we can support you if you're coming out of year 12 this year, we have the Rugby Young Achiever Award, which is we had 2 Rugby Young Achievers this year. Tiara was one of them. It gives a $5,000 cash award, plus some of the stuff that I'll explain after that. We gave out 2 of those this year, and there's a runner-up, which is $1,500. The only eligibility qualification for that is you're coming out of year 12 and you play rugby. We also have a dozen what's called Friends of the Sports Association scholarships. That would mean that you are already part of the Aon squad, and maybe you're part of the Rebel squad. You probably need to be at that level that's another $3,000 a year. The main part that the elite athlete program can offer you, so once you start studying at Melbourne, these are the sort of things we can support you in. We would ensure all of your costs for any Aon sevens, or if you're representing the university at uni nationals, we sent a men's team away to uni nationals and sevens last year, would be covered. We have a physiotherapy clinic on campus. We have a full-time strength and conditioning coach who would work in conjunction with anybody you're working with Aon or with the Melbourne University Rugby Club. Our strength and conditioning coach also has a range of speakers in for educational sessions, the same sort of thing you'd have if you were in the VIS or for one of their Olympic sports or something like that. We'll help you with any of your academic issues, and that would mean that if you're playing Aon sevens, we can help you get, you might have mandatory attendance requirements attached to your course. You might have assessment tasks that start clashing with your training. You might have exams you have to reschedule. It could be for your rugby, you move interstate. You can study cross-institutionally, means you would study interstate somewhere and still keep your Melbourne University degree going ahead. Or you might want to take semesters off, multiple semesters. Now, most students can't do that. One of the Rugby Young Achiever winners this year, who's playing for the Rebels, Glenn Vahu, has taken a second semester off. So he's pushed his study back. He was able to do that. And you would have access to preferential timetabling, which means you'd get, when I know my rugby schedule at the start of the year, you'd be able to access, okay, when do I want to go to this subject? And you get access before any of the other students in the university. Now, that's a lot of talking from me. Probably what I would encourage Samantha and Jason is that if anybody has any interest, any queries, any questions about their situation, that they contact me. It's a perfect time at the moment. We've got a lot of the scholarship stuff going on, but that's really my designated role, is to try and help any student athletes that are either thinking of coming to the university, but most particularly once they start studying here.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks so much, Brendan. I think the reason, girls, if you're sort of wondering why Brendan's on this call, you know, with this being a university program, as JR touched on, it is really important that we offer an academic and a sports side to this program. And there is a quota that must be met in terms of the squad size. So, you know, we do encourage, obviously, players to look at university at Melbourne Uni. It's just, it makes it a lot easier in terms of selection and things like that, because we do have to meet a quota in terms of what players can be representing in this competition. But yeah, that's sort of why Brendan's come on today. And Brendan, thank you. And if I have any girls, I'll definitely get them in contact with you.
You can pass my contact details on, Samantha. Yeah, I'm more than happy to talk to you. And if it's year 11 or 12 students and your parents, and try and explain what we can and can't do, and hope maybe some ideas about some ways that you might have thought of before, of ways I might be able to start studying, or at least put my toe in the water and study.
Yep.
Brendan, awesome. I hope you don't mind, but I've recorded your kind of dialogue here. And Sammy, are you okay if we can post it up for those girls who have missed it? Because we've got 36 or 37 on the call now. There's probably about 15 to 20 that might be relevant for the information too. Is that okay with you, Brendan? Oh,
absolutely, Jason. Cool. Yeah. More than happy to help in any way we can.
Awesome. Awesome. All right. Thank you so much. Really.
Oh, no problems at all. I'm very happy to hear there's so many people, so many players training. It's fantastic stuff this time of year.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Brendan. We'll
You
talk
can
Okay,
soon.
no
either stay
worries.
on, mate, or leave. It's up to you. We've just got some announcement about some winners or something around burpees. I'm not too
I
sure.
might.
Definitely don't have to stay.
Yeah, you don't
No, I
have
might
to.
leave it going on in the background. I got some work I'm going to do here. I come
Sure.
from a coaching background with a different sport, but yeah, I like listening to some of this stuff. If you don't mind. So.
Yeah,
No, of
no
course not.
worries. No
Thanks,
worries.
Bren.
Okay.
Hey, thank you.